Hello. Do you hear me?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Hello.
Okay. But
Hello. Hi, Wim. Hi, Marcus.
Hi.
Okay. All right.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just looking through the doc. All right, so we don't have items on the agenda so far. Wait, sorry. Copy. Okay, let me share my screen maybe, then you can see what I'm doing. All right, do you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Release content. KubeCon talk. Okay, is there anything yeah, so let's maybe discuss release content, right?
There is one thing to add.
So
do you
let's
hear me?
look at it from last week. So logging, I think
Hello?
this PR was done, right?
Yep. I can hear you.
No, it's not done. So there were some comments. So where,
No, Wim doesn't
what
hear
is
me.
the status of the logging part?
Yeah, I guess Wim doesn't hear us.
Wim, there is issues you hearing us.
No, I don't hear you.
But Fabian does.
Ah, wait.
Yeah, I hear.
Now I hear you. Sorry, that was me. Yes.
Okay. I'll try to say that there is an issue that we need to discuss that Dan brought to our attention.
On the login?
No, not logging. Must statement with identity refs.
Okay, so wait a minute. So let's maybe add the list, right? So we have this sensitive data. Then what else do we have? Read paths. Okay, so that's the syncing, right? We probably need to discuss that. Right, then what else do we have, right? Marcus? Which was, now you're on mute, I think, yeah.
Must statement validation with identity refs. An issue that Dan brought up in that's related to Arista or config models.
Okay. All right. Any other thing in terms of context?
No, I don't think for now. I mean, there is this parallelization that I've worked on.
Is that related to the syncing for streaming?
No. No.
Okay. So that's parallel. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The import. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's two things. It's
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
for import and for walking the tree. I have some draft PRs that still need more work, but yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have to add anything. No.
From anyone else? If not, okay. Then maybe go through it. Logging. Where are we with this PR?
On data server, I'm not sure. There was 2 rounds of review that I had on Alex's PR. I haven't checked today if like the second round is.
No, I think the second
already on.
no, he's not. And the problem is he's off this week and next week.
Okay.
So the question is if I should take over his side to do the fixes, or if this can wait for 2 weeks, or if.
I don't know. I mean, he's at least online, and I've had a quick chat, and he said thanks for the feedback and so on. So it seems like he's somehow taken a look. I don't know. Maybe.
There is 2. So there is one is there is a PR. So he created a new repo, right? So that we split it in 2 pieces, I believe. One is he created a logging repo. I'm looking here, logger, right? I think that's the one. So this is where the generic code lives, right? So that's one. So that's generic, and then so that is there, and then there is the one on the data server side. That's I think we are discussing, which is this PR here. Slow.
La partie Hello for Business, c'est toi, Jean-Pierre, ou c'est Laurent?
So basically,
Ah, c'est vrai.
yes, these are the open.
C'est au bureau des pleurs, hein, Laurent. C'est pas terminé.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, so there's a few open items here. Yeah, that's all the reviews. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we should address these, right? I think, yeah, so this is specific towards the implementation of the data server. This has nothing to do, from what I see, with the generic logger itself, right? So this is just
Yeah, I haven't taken a look at that repo. I just took a look at the data server changes.
Because one of the things that is open that I see the other so basically what I think Alex Summit did is basically what we asked is put the logger into a separate repo, right? Because it's going to be generic across all the different implementations, and then you have the specific implementation in data server, right? So what I see is that we could also implement in config server, we could align with the logger implementation that he has, right? So that could be, it's just we have to convert it towards that interface. So I feel that we can start doing that, right? In general. Instead of using my logger, use the logger in the SDC repo. And so it just has to convert. So if I don't know whether anyone is interested in doing that. If not, then we are open, and then there is the logger repo is done, right? And then I think config server is probably the next one that we can align the logger, right? Align with the SDC IO logger. SDC DCIO logger implementation. Yeah, if nobody wants to do or is interested in doing that, we can. I can have a look probably this week to start adding that. Right. Okay. Then
And just to correct before you continue for data server, because what I said before, so So Alex is off these 2 weeks, but I think he's still continuing to work on it because he likes SDC a lot, he said so.
Yeah, correct. So
So
I
he'll-
don't think it's
said-
urgent. Open. The only thing what you typically have with these PRs, if you have too much change, you have to rework it all the time, right? So that's
Exactly, so that's what he wants to avoid. So yeah, he said it should be done soon. He's going through the Marcus's feedback.
Yeah, so that's the only downside, is that if you wait too long and if there is lots of changes, you have to rework it all the time. So that's the downside of not getting it done.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know that Alex is interested in doing it on the config server, or he's okay with someone else taking it?
He's probably okay. I mean, he's probably okay with someone else
Okay.
doing it now for the next 2 weeks. I mean, let's see if when he comes back.
Yeah, if he's
Work,
on holiday, it should not do this. Ideally, yeah.
Yeah, but I can also see on our side if someone wants to do it, or if I even do it to understand it a bit more. I'll write with him.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then sensitive data. So the PR, I saw the changes in the API server and the config server are done. What is not done is all the logic to do something with it. So we need to discuss, I think, mainly the interface on the SDC PB, right? So the interface to the data server. I don't know, Marcus, whether you have given it a thought or not. Yeah, so that's something we should do. I think for me, so if you look to the implementation that I did in the config server, right, I can actually show you. I actually give an example as well. So what I actually did was, it is very similar. It's actually almost the same as the regular SDC part. So if you look to the artifact, no, it's in examples, I think. In examples, there is.
Still a PR.
No, I think I put it here. The PR is merged, I think. See, this is how it looks like, but it's a fictive program. But so in other words, what you have, if you look to the CR itself, it's basically the same. So you have a priority, you have a config, and then instead of having a blob, so there is still a path, right? So similar to like we have before. So this would be your X path of the value that you use. And then instead of putting the real value, you put a reference to a secret. And the namespace has to match the one of this, right? Because otherwise you have this leaking. So in other words, that's how it is, right? So in other words, if you look to what a config looks like, the difference is that the value, which can be a big blob here, the value in this case is actually a secrets ref, right? And that can only be a leaf. So it cannot be like a blob. The reason why that is the key is because a secret is kind of, you can put multiple values into a secret. So this basically says which key. So a secret is like a config map. So you can basically say, here's a key. And then the value that is referred to this key is the one that will be taken, right? So, but if you look to the config, so in other words, it is almost the same, except that this only can refer to a leaf, not a leaf list or a blob or an object or what have you in Yang. So it refers always to a leaf. But if you look to the SDC PB interface, you have a path and a value at the end of the day, right? So it comes down to the same thing. So my view is that we should just add a sensitive flag into it. So that we add in the SDC PB a sensitive flag to say this is sensitive data. because that will tell you, Marcus, whether what you should do with it from a logging perspective, from also from deviation perspective, and so on and so forth. And as a result, you could. So that's how I was thinking about it, without going into a lot of depth. But so in other words, it's almost like a config blob. The only difference is that the data that is in it is sensitive. So my thought was just add a flag into the SDCPB to say it's sensitive data, and that should give you all the information what to do with that leaf.
Yeah,
But
makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's a high-level thought, knowing what we do on the other side. Yeah. Now, of course, there is quite a bit of work for you to process this, because it means that so you have to do some obfuscation, right, in the running config, right? What we said based on this flag. And also in the deviation, there has to be some obfuscation of the data, or however you say it, masquerading or something like that.
Mm.
So that's the thing that we have to bear in mind. But by the looks of it, I've tried to model it almost in the same way as we modeled the config. The only other thing is that where I was thinking about for this is, so we are talking about this SDK and so on, right? And if you look in general, how do we, how can we make it nice from an automation perspective, right? Because today you have a Yang schema, right? And then so somehow this is kind of opaque metadata to the Yang schema, right? So somehow it would be good to have this somewhere coming. Actually, ideally it should come from the vendor, right? And I don't think in Yang there is anything to indicate sensitive data, right? Does anyone know whether you can somehow derive it?
No, I don't know. I haven't come across.
Yeah, so that's the only other thing that I've been thinking about in the sensitive data. Of course, if you make a YAML file, it's fine, right? But I think in general, if we really want to make it programmatic, this would be really good if we can somehow parse the Yang tree and derive this from it somehow, right? Rather than doing it manual, right? But I'll have a look. I'll have a discussion about the second part with some of the people like Jason and James to see what they think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. So basically here, I think the main open point is we need to agree on SDC PB, right? Interface and data server. Or let's say, yeah, overall system impact, right? So the things that I was thinking about, so in deviations, you want to obfuscate, or how do you say it? Something like that. The data, right? So config server needs to fetch the secrets. So I think I know how to do that, right? We need to have SDCPB interface change sensitive data or something like that. We then need to do running config, obfuscate the data, right? And here we said previously we had this discussion whether we need to have a native flag and a sensitive flag or something like that, right? You remember this?
To get either the obfuscated or the whole thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
That's what we said here, right? Yeah. I think these were the ones that I can think of. Maybe there is more probably once you're implementing it. Yeah. Okay. So we need to start, thinking about it a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Then syncing with streaming. So where are you on that, Marcus? Or do we take the other one? Or...
I have now kind of a POC draft code that is able to fetch the config from the SROS box with that very large config and import it into data server via. Say again?
Yeah, which interface is using GNMI?
GNMI, yes.
And on change?
Yes.
Okay.
But I've only made it up to this what's it called, sync response flag that indicates that it has now streamed the whole config once, right? Up until that point I am, and now the additions need to go in to
get other additional updates basically.
Yeah, and like pool them somehow and then push them to the tree as well. So with the config that we have, just right before the call, I did another test, and it took this is now with additional stuff. It took close to 2 minutes to ingest the config. There is no parallel processing involved in that bit right now. And then it took I don't know, 10 seconds or something to 10 or 17, something like that, to import that stuff into the running tree, into the sync tree that is being used by the whole validation and in use when you do the deviation calculation and that stuff.
So that's using your parallel import code.
It's
right?
not yet using that stuff, no.
Okay.
So what happens in from GNMI, we get all these notifications, which ends up as being path value pairs, right? So I thought, okay, as you might have seen in the notes from last week's meeting, I've been able to import the whole JSON config with this parallel approach within 6 seconds into the tree, right? So that processing of tree-based data is pretty much optimized. So we have a worker pool, and then we create the elements, and then like for the child elements, we add new tasks to the worker pool, and they will then like build up the whole structure, right? That way we do not, and the parent already creates the main element for the child, so we don't have concurrent access to the child list, basically. So we do not need a lock there or anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so fast.
Yeah.
So no logs there, and then that single task that is now scheduled might spawn multiple more tasks that represent its childs and so on. So like the buffer is basically growing. Something where I had an issue because I was only spawning CPU number of workers and had a bound channel. So in the channel, in the end, I set the channel to 190,000 elements buffered. And only then the configuration would really import, because the issue is the buffer builds up and all the childs or all the active running tasks still try to push something into the buffer, creating new tasks for their childs, right? But in the end, they deadlock because the buffer is full and no one's capable of reading stuff from there. So I made the channel, I replaced the channel with a linked list that keeps only a pointer to the head and the tail. And from the head we're reading, to the tail we're adding, and then like these two move independent from each other, and there's no deadlock in that case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff's kind of well tested. Then we have the walk, like where you can add a visitor to the tree, and it will like visit each and every element. That needs to be revisited because yeah, I did some stupid stuff there. Something I realized when doing the importers. But yeah, with those, I think we can still improve the syncing stuff as well, because they're like what I did now is I'm building up all the data that I'm getting from that sync channel.
Dat is dat jij nu niet, hè? Ja. Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the sync channel, I'm creating a separate tree for it and insert all the data in there. And then since I believe that the import with this parallelism is really, really fast, what I'm doing is I'm exporting it into our protobuf format that we use in the cache, basically.
Okay.
And
So
with this, I'm adding that stuff into the running tree, doing first the deletions if we have some, and then doing the insertion.
Okay.
And yeah, by this method, I think we can make it run pretty fast. Yeah. Now, the thing that we need to do is to get the conversion from GNMI to SDCPB updates and so on, to get a fast path for that by doing it in parallel or whatever. But since we have path and value, we cannot make the addition to that tree parallel, because you don't know if two updates would update the same child list, basically.
So that
So we could like, one thing we could do is creating maybe trees per worker in a worker pool, and they would just build up the data, the updates that they get, and when they're done, they feed that, or they export it and feed that into the importer, that like on a per worker pool basis. But that's stuff that we need to play around with, I think, and see what's still maintainable and manageable, and what really brings a lot of benefit on the performance side.
Right. So if
but yeah, with this actual approach, it took me close to 2 minutes to ingest that large configuration from the box in a single threaded means.
Yeah, the large config, for people who are not familiar, yeah, we have a configuration of a customer which is, I don't know how many lines. I think it's
3.5 million or so. I mean, I'm not 100% sure right now if that was
Yeah.
including the brackets and so on, but yeah.
It is there. It's close. Yes, between 3 and 4 million lines of config. So we are trying to. It's a bit of an exceptional case, but it's a good test case to see how good or how scalable the system is, right? Yeah.
And then yeah, after implementing that for GNMI, we will also need to do the changes to netconf, right? Because it needs to also use this way of feeding the sync information back into the running tree.
Yeah. And if there is in the parallelism a concept of coalescing, I mean, now I don't know how relevant it is, but for example, it's probably less relevant in config than it is in state. So like you have a value that goes to A, then to B, then to C, then to D. You could avoid doing all the intermediate steps in the update and just take the last one. But I'm not sure whether how.
I don't think for the streaming that makes much sense, because like the big chunk that will really give us trouble is the initial phase where it syncs the whole configuration just once, and then it starts going into on change mode, right? And I don't think that if we made it up to that on change phase, then I don't think we're in much trouble. Big chunk is the one that's anyways only common once.
It's you're syncing to the initial configuration that takes time. Yeah, and in there you should not have coalescing requirements because you should have a single value for a given leaf, right? So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's only in the later phase, but I also believe in config changes. You don't have this. You go admin state down, then up, and down. So it's like it's typically in a state. It's more relevant in state than it is in config, I think.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think yeah, the sooner we can get it in and validate it, the better. I think, right? Because I'm assuming that this also has quite a lot of changes.
Yeah. It's working on the open heart.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. So I think the sooner you have it in, or at least if it's only for GNMI, it's better than wait for the whole thing, in my view. I'm rather doing incremental stuff rather than the big bang, if possible.
Yeah, I had to do certain changes and thereby break interfaces. So
of course, yeah, they need
we won't be able to run netconf right now anymore. Okay. Right? And I think Fabian is already getting a heart attack. So yeah, I don't think we should add
Oh, okay. Then if it does work
without netconf, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay, then I agree. Yeah, so we should not break things that we had, right?
Yeah.
But if we could do it, and what I was trying to say is that if we could do the optimization for GNMI but still keep netconf running, which is apparently not correct. If that would be true, I rather.
Yeah, in that case, I would agree. But yeah, it's unfortunately not the case. It's a couple of things that like the schema client that needed to be handed all the way down, and some sort of things. So yeah, I don't see that.
No, okay, yeah. I was advocating for merging sooner than later, without of course breaking anything. Ideally.
Yeah. No. I mean, from a priority perspective, I consider this syncing
to be the priority.
To be the priority now. first priority, and then second priority is the import, because that will speed that stuff up as well. The parallelized import,
Yeah.
and then fixing the stuff that I got wrong in the first place with the visitor.
Yeah, okay. But are they not going together somehow, these two?
No, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean the interface for the import is still the same. It's then the tree basically that takes the chunk of data that it gets and then performs the import in parallel. Because it's all abstracted behind an interface, right? So
Yeah, I see.
whatever you put in, if it's the proto, if it's the JSON or XML, it has a certain set of functions: get key value, get childs, and 2 or 3, 4 other functions that need to be implemented, and then the rest is decided based on the schema.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we can like, yeah, have a generalized way of importing that stuff. So it's just the adapter for the specific format that is different.
I see. Yeah.
Right. So that will adapt to the E tree or to the map string any and so on, and that will give the values back.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and yeah, from a high level perspective, that didn't change. It's just then, yeah, that import stuff itself spawns the worker pools and tracks if all the tasks are being finished and so on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then we have must statements with this one, right? So this is a bug. Is this a bug or what? Or?
No, it's, yeah, I don't know how to define it. So identity refs. Identity refs are references to identity values defined in Yang.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be, I don't know if it actually is, but like admin state enabled or disabled could be specific identities that are defined in a certain module, and then you can extend them and add new values to that base identity, blah, blah, blah. If you use them in a different module, you have to reference them. For instance, in a must statement, you have to reference them with import prefix, colon, the identity name, right? Now, the prefix is dependent. So on the import side, what you do is you import and then module name, right? In the head of the Yang, import module name, and then for that module you define a prefix.
Yes, locally in the
locally.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think in most of our SRL schemas we give this prefix the same name as the module name.
Okay.
Right. But in this case, we've seen that this prefix was different.
It's local significance at the end of the day than the pointing module. Yeah.
Right. So and in the one that defined these identities, they also reference their own local, because you also define a prefix for your local your local file that you're actually editing, right?
Yeah.
So these prefixes do not match.
Yes.
Right. and I don't actually see how we resolve them, because in schema server, must statements are only strings that sit there, right? The whole must statement is just a single string, right? We do not have any information like this is a pointer to a value, and then we could look up, yeah, this value, is it an identity or whatever? It's just the whole thing is a string, right? That we return back to the schema client. Now, if we have that must statement, the prefix is the one like for that local import.
Yeah, it's a local.
But in the tree, these values sit there with the prefix of the originating module.
So you somehow need to have a resolution.
Yep.
So you need a resolver.
Yeah.
That matches the value that is locally assigned to the real value.
Yeah. But this would need to happen in that young parser.
In the Go Yang.
No.
In
the young parser code, in the Danos code. Because only there we poke out the instructions and see, okay, this is actually a pointer to, because in all of the rest, the must statement is only a single string.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Big issue.
So how do we know that there's a reference to an import? Is there in the must statement, you see something like this, right? Import prefix. So you see something like XXX column name.
I think the biggest issue that we've encountered now is that these identity refs are used in keys even. Right.
It's used anywhere at the end of the day, right? But is it like this? Like your must statement has something like this?
Yeah.
And then how do you know it's an identity? Is there a special marker or something like that into it, or?
That is the young parser builds a stack of path elements. And then if that path is fully done, it takes that path and resolves it against the tree.
But now what I understand here is that if the tree is global, right? Here you have per module, at the end of the day, you can have a different resolution to the same value, right? So you kind of have an index on a per module basis, which is that refers to the real value. So in other words, you have a Yang module, right? You import somewhere, let's say an identity ref of X, right? But the value to do the resolution is local to the file, right? So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that, let me try to draw it. Let's say I have module A, right? Which has an identity ref, right? Identity, I'm not able to identity ref. Let's say X or Z,
that
right?
Defines the identity, or that has the identity ref?
That defines the identity, yeah.
Okay, then it's not an identity ref, so it's
identity
Z.
Okay. Right? And then module B basically refers to module A, right? Which has an identity of Z with a ref, let's say X, right? It's something like that, right? What I'm trying to say is that this ref X is locally significant to this.
Yes.
And so that means that somehow this needs to be kept. Either you resolve this when you parse it, that you refer this this thing here to that, right? Or you keep track of that map or index, however you call it, local, right? So these are the two options you have.
The next thing is deviations. That is also being referred in deviations. So there is another layer of abstraction here, right? So in that deviation, you can.
Yeah, deviations. Sorry, not our deviations, but Yang deviations. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So a deviation is, you could see as a file, right? Or as a deviation on B, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, if you have a deviation, this becomes the master, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this overrides this basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's two options here from what you see. Is one is you have during your Yang loading, you can either resolve this and do the reverse mapping so that you refer to the right pointer, right? Or you keep track of the local significant override. From a high level, these are the two choices you have, I think.
Yeah.
Now, this goes back to how the Go Yang operates, right?
Yeah. I mean, it either it should be solved in Go Yang, that they unify these refs.
Yeah, so you basically you unify. Yeah, option one is you unify the refs during resolution, right?
Exactly.
And the second option is you keep track of an index, right? Of a local index, local module index that can be even overwritten by a deviation, right?
No.
To the source, basically, right? So these are the two options you basically have.
Yeah.
I think.
The first one, I think, is not even, we're not even close.
That's Go Yang. This is Go Yang dependent, right? I guess.
Yes. So, and in Go Yang, the whole must statement is a string, right? They do not they do not do any parsing or anything of that, right? So you won't get an abstract syntax tree or whatever.
We have nothing basically. So basically, option one is a no-go.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then the question is option two. You have to build. You have to keep this per module basically. So you somehow need to have a reference on the module, and then you have a local lookup index. Right? So it means that all your imports that you are doing with the prefixes, you have to somehow keep track of.
Per module.
Yes.
Yeah. We just need to find someone to do that.
Yeah, so it's yeah. So this needs to be TBC.
Not not an easy task.
And I add, you have to,
Because the young parser will go evaluate that must statement. It will build up the path stack, and then it will evaluate it. And with that path stack, it will go via the tree adapter. That's the one that's adapting calls made within the young parser stuff, adapted to the tree, right? So somewhere there, we need to have access to the schema, I think, because only the schema server can even remotely build any of this lookup of these kind of lookup tables.
yeah, it has to, I think this has to
And
be,
then this adaption layer would need to change the prefix to the correct one, and then jump into the tree and do the stuff.
uh-huh.
But yeah, that also means that we would need to have an additional gRPC endpoint on the schema server, and like do this housekeeping of
Indexing.
setting up such an index and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have to figure that out. Yeah. Okay.
So I think Hans created an issue for that. It's maybe more.
It's an issue on the data.
Yeah. So yeah, you can link that maybe
Yeah, I'll have a link.
in the document.
Data server issue. This one here?
The first one, must statement. I don't see your screen right now because I'm
That's the one, I think.
349. 349, yes.
And here there is, where is the, this is the one. Is that one?
Yeah, and the one before it, directly connected and so on. And that's the other thing. Arista has a couple of young schemas where they did not refer to identity refs in this way, which is the correct way, due to the standard. They just called out directly connected instead of open config, whatever it is, Holland directly connected. So that was the other stuff that gave us trouble. But yeah, that's basically not on us to fix. But yeah, the other stuff here is definitely an issue we have.
Okay.
Which is not there if you are consistent with the import prefix, with the import prefixes, right? If you use the same prefix name in wherever you import that module, then everything's cool, and it'll be referred in the same way under the same name. But yeah, if that's mixed up, then we have an issue.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else for now? Yeah, the other thing that maybe is interesting for people, we are working with a few people that are doing a bachelor thesis, right? And so we have two projects. One is to define a CLI/TUI on top of SDC. And the second one is to build an SDK that instead of you interfacing with YAML files, you can actually write a Python program and generate the necessary config files that would be used. So these are two projects that on which we have two students, so two group of students. I think they're both with two to actually help do that. So that's another activity that's ongoing. The goal is to have results by the end, I think, beginning of next year. So by the end of the year, we'll see where we are on that. Yeah. But yeah, just FYI. All right. Is there anything else that someone wants to bring up or discuss?
This SDC CLI, which you said has been worked on, how is the position between like the SDC Lite and the SDC, like the kubectl add-on?
So this is really to do auto completion of a schema as well. So it's like really when you do CLI on a box. So you basically go interface, you do tap, and you get all the interfaces.
Like for handcrafting configurations based on schema information plus running data plus the information that you're actually building up. So yeah, it would provide you with a command line interface-ish, or like that's what at least we envision. Let's see what the students come up with, right? But yeah, have some auto completion against the schema, and then if it's for building up lists with their keys, they would go to data server and query that for list information, like what interfaces are there or whatever, and these would show up again in the auto completion process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's complementary in my view to what we have. Both of these are complementary to what we have. And the goal is to implement them on SDC Lite as well as SDC, right? So you have, so the idea is to have it on both, ideally, but let's see.
I mean, from what I heard from this one call that I attended with Alex, with one of your colleagues, Fabian, they also kind of, I wouldn't say struggle, but I mean, they see the difficulties in building these configurations in JSON, like off box, that they then want to push into SDC as intents, right? And this would be the perfect, probably the perfect tool for them to utilize to build these configurations off box. And then, yeah, maybe straight away commit into the API.
Yeah, makes sense. All right.
Yeah, once we have something, I mean, it's early days. We have some calls with them. At the moment, we have a private channel. So, but from the moment we have something tangible, I think it would be good to share just to get some idea. But yeah, the idea is really on the what, right? So today we use a YAML file, like the one I was showing, right? So somehow this gets generated by someone, right? And today it's humans, right? So for example, these YAML files that I was showing here, right? Today we generate them. Yeah, so this stuff we generate them by hand, basically. So the idea, if you have the SDK, you would basically write a Python program. It would basically the output of the Python program would be this file, but you actually write them using a Python program.
Yeah, that one makes sense. I mean, then not everyone has to build their own pipelines, because the moment to just build bash scripts and pipelines to do that, Alex built the tool to transform the XML configs to this config.
So it gets a better, a nicer programmatic way, and then with CLI, it's through CLI. I think it has a different purpose, but yeah, so we are trying to offer different ways to be able to get to this type of data, right? Eventually, that's the goal.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I need to drop to another call. So
Yes, yeah, same. Yeah.
thanks.
All right, thanks, appreciate, and then we'll talk next week. All
Yep.
right.
See you next
Cheers.
week. Bye.
Bye.